There's a kind of prison that has no walls, no bars, no locks. In fact, it's the opposite. It has mirrors, perfumes, notifications, applause. It looks like freedom. And the cruelest part? You carry it inside your own head. Think about it. We live in a world where everyone seems free, yet no one truly chooses. You wake up and the algorithm already decided what you'll see, what you'll want, who you should be. You look in the mirror, but is that really you looking back? Tell me this. How many things have you chased not because you deeply wanted them, but because you saw someone else being praised for having them? How many times did you shrink yourself just to keep playing the game? But what if I told you there's a way out? That there's a mind that doesn't beg to be seen, a presence that silences a room without making a sound? No, this isn't some self-help cliche. This is war, a silent war. And today, in this video, you'll see the battlefield. More than that, you'll discover the one weapon no one can take from you, a liberated mind. But listen closely. After this, you can't go back to sleep. You're about to see what happens when a man stops chasing and starts walking above it all. Let's start with a truth most people never question. You were trained to never feel complete. From the moment you took your first breath, the world began shaping you. Not with chains or commands, but with rewards and expectations. They gave you a name, a room, a smile, and then began layering rules beneath your skin. Sit like this, talk like that, don't cry, smile, be nice, impress, perform, belong, and slowly, almost beautifully, you became someone who looked like you, but wasn't you. And here's the genius of the trap. It didn't feel like control. It felt like love. It felt like guidance. It felt like normal. But it was emotional programming. Now ask yourself something uncomfortable. When was the last time you truly wanted something, without performing for anyone, without imagining how you'd look doing it, without needing someone to notice? Hard, isn't it? Because we live in a culture that has tied desire to performance. We don't just want. We want to be seen wanting, seen grinding, seen flexing, seen achieving. But here's the question that shatters illusions. If no one could ever witness your success, would it still be worth chasing? The truth is, most people don't love what they love. They love the attention it brings. They're not chasing purpose. They're chasing applause. And while you're chasing applause, someone else is building empires in silence. That's how the system wins. It doesn't need to punish you. It just keeps you entertained, distracted, performing. Because as long as you're running, you won't stop long enough to think. And that brings us to the battlefield. Are you truly living or just reacting? Look around. Most men today are on autopilot, reacting to lust, to likes, to judgment, to fear, reacting to the echo of expectations they never chose. They build bodies, wardrobes, lifestyles, not from passion but from panic. Panic of not being enough, panic of being invisible, panic of losing a game they never agreed to play. You've seen this guy, the one who trains like a warrior, dresses like a millionaire, spends like a king, all for one thing, attention. And when he gets it, it disappears in seconds. Why? Because it was never his. It was rented, borrowed, temporary. That's the most dangerous addiction of our time. Validation. Validation disguised as success, as masculinity, as self-love. But it's not love, it's need. And any identity built on need is fragile. Because the moment the attention fades, he collapses. And here's the harsh truth. Most people aren't afraid of failure. They're afraid of being unseen. They don't want greatness. They want to be noticed. But here's the thing they won't tell you. You can win the game and still lose yourself. Because every time you betray your inner compass for outer applause, you lose something you can't get back. Integrity, alignment, peace. And that loss is quiet, invisible, but you feel it. You feel it when you lie awake at night, scrolling, searching, asking questions you're too afraid to say out loud. Is this who I really am? Why do I feel empty after getting everything I thought I wanted? That emptiness is not failure. It's feedback. Feedback that your life has been lived outward, but never inward. And this is the shift, the turning point where men either wake up or spiral deeper. Because once you see the mirror, you can't unsee it. And what's reflected there isn't weakness. It's potential. Because if your actions can be manipulated by need, they can also be transformed by choice. That's the beginning of real power. Choice. Not reaction. Not compulsion. Not desperation. But clarity. Decisiveness. Presence. When you begin to choose where your energy goes, what desires you feed, what silence you allow, you start to take your life back. Piece by piece. Moment by moment. Not loudly. Not for the crowd, but within. And that's when something strange happens. You stop chasing, you stop reaching, you start watching, you start breathing differently, walking differently. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because you finally remembered who you are. And in a world addicted to noise, that kind of silence is terrifying. Because it's powerful. Let me leave you with this before we go deeper. The mind that no longer seeks to impress becomes impossible to manipulate. It becomes the strategist in a room full of performers, the observer in a crowd of reactors, the signal among noise. That's the man they can't figure out, the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't beg. He moves by choice, and people feel it. Now let's go deeper, because if you've made it this far, it means you've felt it. That quiet discomfort that whispers, maybe the life I've built isn't really mine. It's not weakness to feel that. It's awareness. And awareness, when faced with courage, becomes power. But power without clarity becomes chaos. So let's clarify what's really happening inside you. You've been living in a house built by others, decorated with the desires they planted in you. You thought you were choosing, but you were just reacting to programming. Desire isn't always yours. It's taught, it's edited, it's sold. You were shown from a young age that love is something to earn, that your worth comes from how much you can attract, impress, or prove. And so your nervous system adapted. You began to seek, constantly, endlessly. But what happens when the seeking becomes your identity? When the chase becomes your definition? You become addicted to reflection, not self-reflection, external reflection, the kind that only exists when someone is watching. It's why silence scares you, why stillness makes your skin crawl. Because in the silence, the show ends, and you're forced to meet the man behind the mask. That moment is terrifying, because he might be weaker than you imagined, or sadder, or lonelier, or completely unsure of who he really is. But that man is real, and the real you is the only one capable of being free. See, the world celebrates performance, but transformation doesn't happen on stage. It happens in private, in quiet decisions, in uncomfortable truths. There's no applause for turning off your phone, no trophy for walking away from validation, no followers for sitting alone and facing your shadow. But that's where the real game is played. That's where men are made, not in display, but in discipline. So let's talk about emotional autonomy, the ability to generate your own energy instead of begging for it from others. It's the ability to walk away, not out of spite, but from alignment. To say no, not because you're angry, but because you're clear. To be alone, not because you're rejected, but because you've stopped rejecting yourself. Most people are emotionally bankrupt. They depend on likes to feel seen. They need replies to feel loved. They chase connection not because they want to share, but because they can't bear to sit with their own silence. And when your peace depends on someone else's attention, you've already lost. Because you're not a man anymore. You're a mirror, a fragile echo of whatever reflects back. But what happens when you break that mirror? What happens when you stop reacting to eyes that aren't even looking? You begin to remember who you were before you were watched. And that is sacred. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a man walking down the street. He's not showing off, not adjusting his posture, not checking his reflection. He walks not to be seen, but to arrive. People feel something, but they can't name it. It's not arrogance, it's not coldness, it's presence, centeredness, stillness wrapped in movement. That man doesn't need to convince you of anything, because his energy already said it all. That's emotional autonomy. That's masculine elegance. That's sovereignty. But you don't reach that state by accident. You reach it by detoxing from the drug of being seen. by cutting ties with the idea that your value is a public performance. You reach it when you stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Do I respect who I'm becoming?" That's the shift. And once it clicks, you stop wasting your fire. Desire isn't the enemy, it's the fuel. But if your fire only burns for approval, it'll consume you. The key is transmutation, redirecting desire from conquest to creation, from hunger to purpose, from chaos to clarity. The same energy that made you obsess over being wanted can build books, legacies, visions. It can become a force of gravity, one that bends reality around your focus. That's not suppression, that's mastery. It's the ancient art of turning your instincts into instruments, of making your need to impress serve your mission instead. Because when you stop chasing attention, you create space to build something worthy of it. And here's the paradox. When you no longer need to be seen, people begin to notice. But now it's different. Now, you're not addicted to the spotlight. You're just unshakably visible. Because stillness is loud and clarity is magnetic. You've been taught that masculinity is noise, domination, display. But real masculinity is the opposite. It's containment, direction, restraint. Not hiding, but channeling. Not silence from weakness, but from strength. That's what scares people. Not that you say too much, but that you've become someone who doesn't need to. So, let me ask you something before we move to the final part of this journey. If no one could see your progress, well, would you still pursue it? Would you still do the work if the work gave you peace, but not applause? If your answer is yes, you've already begun to win. If your answer is no, then this video found you at the perfect moment, because you've just seen the truth. And the truth, once seen, never leaves. It waits for you, quietly, patiently, until you're ready to stop performing and start becoming. You've made it here, to the end, or rather the edge, because what comes next is no longer about listening, it's about becoming. You've looked in the mirror of your mind, you've seen the performance, you've heard the noise, and you've felt, maybe for the first time, the stillness that lives beneath it all. Now the question isn't, what should I do? It's, who do I want to be when no one is watching? That's the real transformation. Not louder, not flashier, but clearer. Because once your value is no longer rented from others, you own it. You wear it in your silence. You carry it in your presence. And people feel it, even if they don't understand it. They'll call you distant, cold, hard to read. But what they're really saying is, you're no longer playing the same game as us. And that's true, you've stopped reacting. You've started building, not to prove, but to live. Now, if this spoke to something deep in you, if you felt the shift, then don't let this just be another video. Make it a line in the sand, like, comment, subscribe. Not for me, but because you're choosing to stay in spaces that feed your evolution. And if someone out there needs to hear this, send it to them. Because we rise together, but only when one of us dares to go first. I'll see you in the next one, or maybe not. But if you come back sharper, come back freer, come back you.